Hey there guys, today I'm going to be talking a little bit more about the Elder Scrolls Online. So to start, I'm just going to touch up about some things that I talked about in the last video, specifically about the classes, and then I'm going to go through a little bit more about the leveling. So just for about the classes, there's not a lot new yet, but there is one thing, and that's that the Dragon Knight class is going to be more of a fire-based role. So, it's going to be a lot more open role, which I really like, because I think that they're trying to do that with all of their different classes. So now I'm going to be starting with the leveling system. So you start off with probably the traditional Elder Scrolls setup with the sliders, and you personalize what your character looks like, and whenever you're done with that, you move on to picking a class. So once you pick a class, you're probably only going to start with one or two abilities, but as you level up, you'll get more and more. So once you start off with your class, you're probably only going to start with one or two abilities, but as you level up, you'll get more and more, and that's when you really get a chance to really personalize your character. Once you get a skill and you use it enough, you're given the opportunity to you're given an opportunity to go through a skill tree for that skill and assign different attributes to it, so it's more specific to your character and your role and your style of play. And this is just another way that ZeniMax is making it so that all the characters are different and we're not actually just all playing the same builds and trying to achieve the same skill sets. As you level up, you're going to be using probably the same weapon combination. I mean, at the beginning, you're going to be experimenting a bit, but most people, I think, are going to set off and be like, I want to use two maces, something like that, maybe a two-handed sword, or, if you're feeling fancy, a staff and a shield. As you're using these, you're going to be leveling up your different skills to fit this kind of playstyle that you've gotten until you get to level 50, which is the level cap. One way that they made it so that they're still leveling after level 50 is that you can go through with different weapons and set up your skills towards those so that you can basically experiment with everything at a really high level. And this is a really cool tool, and it's going to allow people who maybe weren't too sure about what they picked before and they wanted to try something new. Now you can go back and you can use that different role. You can be a healer instead of that tank, which is really good because I know sometimes it's kind of painful to always have to stay in that same role, and you end up wanting to make a new character, which just takes a lot of time to level up. So that's all there is about leveling so far. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the story. So as far as the story is concerned, I would really recommend going to this website right here. I'll have the link in the description. It's just the Elder Scrolls Online website, and I know that they have tons of great information there about the story, and it's really the only place that you can find anything. I'm not just going to go through what they say, but you guys can go there and you can check it out for yourselves. It's a really nice website, and there's tons of great art. They also have lots of things about the different alliances. If you go here, there's the Alliance War. They have stuff about that. They talk a little bit about the different races, the battle system with 200 people in it. They talk about the control of Elder Scrolls, siege weapons, and probably the coolest part about the game is becoming the Emperor, which they have a little paragraph in there about that. So that's basically most of what they have here. There's a map with the different alliances and their territory on it. And there's some other stuff on here, but you guys should really check out this website because it has a lot of good info. And it's from ZeniMax, so all the stuff is legitimate. They post good news. They have contests on here. It's just a great website. So check it out, guys. So now I'm going to be talking about PvP. There's a lot to go over here, but I'm going to try and take a little bit of it in this video. I'll probably end up going over more of it in later videos, but for now, this is all I've got. So you can start PvP at level 10. You're going to have your character skills increased so that they're the equivalent of a level 50, because as we know, PvP is level 50s only. That's the level that you're going to be at. As you go through PvP, you're still going to level up. If you're level 10, you're just going to keep going up from 10, 11, 12, all the way up till 50. But you're going to stay at that 50 margin so that you can keep playing with everyone else and you can compete properly. One of the really cool things about this game that I really like is that they have siege weapons. And this can be anything from ballistas to catapults to, battering rams. So with these weapons, you can basically either, if you're defending your keep, or if you're trying to break in, you can destroy walls, or take out large groups of enemies with one giant, massive bolt. Yeah, so this is a really cool tool, and I know I'm going to be having a lot of fun with this with my friends in my guild. So speaking of that, let's just talk a little bit about guilds and PvP. So from what I've heard, guilds are going to have a lot more opportunities than the average player. You're going to have opportunities to claim farms or towns for your guild, but still for the faction. And it's going to be a lot of player-controlled areas, so as your faction takes fortresses and starts taking things from the land in Cyrodiil, you're also going to have to defend those. But there's not going to be, an army of NPCs there to protect it. It's just going to be the players. I mean, You'll have resources like siege weapons and stuff, but you're still going to be pretty well stuck there with your friends. One way that they made this work a little better is that all the guilds and the different servers are separated by time zones. So, I mean, maybe you won't be able to play with your friend as easily, or if you do go on a server, it's going to be a little bit weird. I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but I have heard that guilds are all based on their time zones, and that's how most of the PvP is going to work too. This is going to be really helpful because, you're not going to be with your friends being like, guys, we did a great job taking that fort. Let's just all go to bed, we'll pick it up tomorrow. It was fun. And then you go to bed, you're just thinking, oh, we did such a good job today. Yeah, this is great. I mean, well, if you think about the game that much, but, most people wouldn't, I hope. But, then you wake up the next day and you go on and you're like, well, what happened to our fort? What happened? And then, the guys who live halfway around the world who happen to just have that as their evening, just went on and took it because no one was there. So thanks ZeniMax for helping us smaller guilds out who just don't have 300 people to be on 24/7. And if you guys are interested in joining a guild, one thing I'm just going to throw out there right now, which is a guild that a few friends of mine and I are making, which is called the Crucible of the Myr. If you just want to check that out, it's on the Elder Scrolls Online forum. You can check it out on a link I'll post in the description. And this guild is with the Aldemirian Dominion. So if you do check out that link, they have some great features there with guilds. There's a lot of different people there who have already set up things, and they're really organized. They also post different contests and some information about the game, links, videos, stuff like that. It's a great place, so check it out. So about the different factions, so I'm just going with the Aldemirian Dominion for now, because when we looked at it, we thought, that's a cool thing. They got a lot of different roles there. It's kind of a weird combo. I know the High Elf is probably going to be a pretty overpowered character. They got lots of uses, and I really have my eyes set on them. There's also the Wood Elf, which looks like it's going to be a really good player, as they have been in other Elder Scrolls games.
And we have the Khajiit. And they're looking pretty strong in this game. As we've seen so far, they're more of a warrior-thief style of play, but just like all the other races, they seem pretty open source, so we'll be able to see them playing a variety of roles. It's going to be interesting to see how they compare to previous Elder Scrolls games, where they haven't been such a popular race, and they haven't exactly been that strong.
But hey, they're still pretty cool, and they're looking like they're going to be a lot better than they have been in previous Elder Scrolls games. The other groups are the Ebonheart Pact and the Daggerfall Covenant. The Ebonheart Pact is a really cool group. I like them a lot because they have the Dark Elf and the Nords, and they also have the Argonians. Dark Elf looks like it's going to be a big step up from other Elder Scrolls games where it didn't have the full benefit of a mage player like the High Elf, but it was also a part of the warrior, so it didn't have the full benefits for that. It seems like it's going to be a really cool race, just like the High Elf. The Nord seems like it's pretty much going to be like what the Nord's been before, although there's going to be a little bit more magic in there. I really hope that we don't just get a bunch of big Skyrim fans running around with their two-handed swords just thinking they're great, because that's going to lead to a lot of dull gameplay, but whatever floats your boat. So as for the Argonians, they're a pretty cool race. I think they're going to be a little bit more useful in this game, so they'll be a pretty balanced race, and I think they're supposed to take a little bit more of a sneaky role for this group of players. For me, I have a little bit of an extra value on Argonians. After reading the book, The Lusty Argonian Maid, in previous Elder Scrolls games, they've really had a extra little bit of comedic value there. And it's going to really make my day when I see that one character running around with their name, The Lusty Argonian Maid, if one of my friends doesn't hit that name first. But, hey, just throwing it out there. So next we have the Daggerfall Covenant. They look really strong. I think that the Orc is going to be a great class to play as. Probably more of a pure warrior, but they're still going to be really strong. And I know they've been overpowered, even though they haven't been played as much in previous Elder Scrolls games. And then we have the Redguard, which looks like it's going to have a role of all three: magic, stealth, and fighting, which looks pretty cool. They're looking pretty strong in this too. And then we have the Bretons, which are looking like a bit more of a step up from previous Elder Scrolls games, where they haven't been so popular. So if I were to rank these three, first, who's the best, who's the worst, I'm not sure. I'm feeling that the Daggerfall Covenant's really strong, and, the other two are really good too, but I think out of the three, I think that it's probably going to have to go to the Daggerfall Covenant or don't get mad at me for saying this, but the Aldemirian Dominion. I think there's going to be a lot more people playing the Ebonheart Pact, but it's also seeming like all of their roles are okay. None of them are too great, so I don't think they're going to have too much of an advantage, as were some of the other ones like the Daggerfall Covenant with Orcs, or the Aldemirian Dominion with High Elves and Wood Elves. Those look like really solid races to play as, and I know they have been so far. Not to say that the Ebonheart Pact isn't going to be strong, but yeah, as I said before, they don't seem to have anyone who's too far ahead, whereas the other ones all have people who are on par with what seems to be the average, but higher up people too. One thing that I've noticed is that there's a lot of people who are really interested in Nords. I feel like this is a lot of leftover hype from Skyrim, where a ton of people were just Nords, and that was definitely probably the most popular race. I'm probably not going to make a Nord because I think that that's just going to be an overplayed race, and that's going to be where most of the numbers come from in the Ebonheart Pact, and that'll probably end up being the most played race for a while until people who are newer to the game and haven't been first introduced to Skyrim come along. We're going to probably have a bit of a spike with the Nords. As for me, I've played since Morrowind. I've really experimented with a lot of the different races. I screw around a lot. I'm definitely not going to be better than most people, but, it's going to be a game that I'm going to enjoy for more of a Elder Scrolls value, and then a great MMORPG value, rather than just, let's go hack some people up as a Nord. Anyways, that's just a little bit of a pet peeve of mine. So getting on with it, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the Elder Scrolls. So for each alliance, there's going to be a main capital city inside the PvP area. What's going to happen with these Elder Scrolls is that you're going to have the chance to steal enemy ones and then have to protect your own. And it's kind of cool because as your team gets them, you're going to get stronger and stronger, and that's going to make one side more overpowered. One device that they talked about is that if one alliance gets a lot stronger than the other ones, they're going to let the other two group together to try and beat that one back down. But I also feel like that won't be so necessary because as one alliance gets bigger, they're going to have more ground to cover, and I feel like people are just going to be really spread out, and it's going to be easier to take back land. This leads to the next big tool, which I think is definitely the coolest thing in this game, which is the opportunity to become the Emperor. So the highest ranking player on the winning side will be crowned the Emperor. They've talked about having big stat increases, and this player is definitely going to be a lot stronger than the average person. But at the same time, they're going to be a big target, so a lot of people are going to be looking out for that person. And this person's only going to be in power and in control for as long as they can hold it. So what'll probably end up happening is that there's going to be a lot of big shifts in which alliance is in control. So as the game progresses, no one's going to be the Emperor for too long, but it'll probably stay in the same group of people. Maybe you can get it twice if you're that good, but I don't think it's going to be the kind of thing that one person's going to have for a few months or anything like that. It'll probably just be like a week thing, although it's not going to be limited to a week. Another thing that they talked about is leaderboards. This is really cool because you're going to be able to track yourself and compare yourself to other people in your guild and your friends. You can also see how you compare to the people worldwide and other people mainly just in your server.
So I have one question about the PvP, and that's about the 200 players on a screen at once. I'm just wondering whether it's going to be 200 people on the screen or whether they're going to divide that up into different, well, I don't know how they do it, but whether they're going to find some way to limit the amount of people on a battlefield, or however they might end up managing to keep only 200 people in the area at once. I'm just wondering how that's going to work, because, I mean, if you're planning something out, you don't want to be the unlucky guy who looks up at everyone and lags out instantly, or you don't want to just have to keep your camera down all the time because everyone's so close together. So I don't think we're going to find any kind of an answer to this anytime soon, but it's just something I'd be interested in finding out.
So that's all I'm going to be going over for the PvP section right now. I'm just going to be moving on a little bit and talking about some similarities between the Elder Scrolls Online and some previous Elder Scrolls games. So one thing that I think is really cool is that they're basically recreating the other Elder Scrolls games maps, but then they're going to throw them into this larger scheme. And they've done a really good job of this. I mean, it's 1,000 years beforehand, but still, there's a lot of similarities. I've seen one church shot from a place in Oblivion. I'm not sure which town this is, but it's a great church shot, and it looks a lot better than it did in Oblivion. But I definitely remember this scene, and it really makes me feel good as someone who's played the other Elder Scrolls games to know that I'll be able to see some familiar sights. So that's one thing that I think's really cool, and I'm definitely going to be enjoying when I play the game. So one thing that people have been asking a lot about is about dragons, because that was the main thing for Skyrim. What ZeniMax has basically said is that they're not going to have them at launch, but it's definitely a possibility for the game. So, I mean, I feel like if they're saying that, they're not just going to say, definitely a possibility, and then just be like, yeah, we didn't bother doing it. You know, we were like, oh, that's a great idea, but let's not do it. Because, I mean, they're trying to make this game the best it can be, and that's definitely going to add a lot to it. I don't think it's going to be the same as in Skyrim, where there's just a bunch of dragons flying around. But at the same time, I don't think it's going to be one or two giant dragon bosses at the end of a dungeon. But I don't think a level 1's going to appreciate it when a level 50 walks by being chased by a dragon, and he happens to just get caught in the middle. Another thing they mentioned is the island that you play in Morrowind. They talked a little bit about adding this in after launch, And it'd be cool because it's just another thing that we've already seen, and we know that there's a lot of good possible gameplay there. They've also mentioned that there's going to be certain areas on the map at launch that you're not going to be able to do anything in. And these are just areas that they're going to add in more content as the game goes on. There probably won't be a lot of blank places on the map, but I'm sure they'll find a way to mix it in with the lore or local quests to explain why you can't go there, and it's not just going to be walking off an edge into an abyss. And hopefully, after all the beta testing, there won't be places where you just fall through the ground into the giant ocean, which we all know is below everything. That was a problem that happened particularly in Oblivion, and I know it's happened a few times in Skyrim, but not as frequently. But I will be still going through any new information I find. I know there's still a lot left to cover, and I'll be sure to make some more videos on that. So that's all I've got for today, guys. So if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe if you're interested in the content. I'm going to keep making Elder Scrolls videos on any more information I find. I know I still have a lot more stuff to go over, but I'm also going to be branching out into some other stuff. I'll be doing some movie reviews and doing some gameplay. If you guys want me to do anything specifically, just send me a message or comment below. If you guys have any questions regarding the Elder Scrolls Online, don't be afraid to ask, and I will address it in my next video.
This week I have a question for you guys, and it's just about the places you guys have seen in previous Elder Scrolls games or new content that you guys might want to see in this one. So I'm just wondering, what do you guys want to see? Whether it's new stuff or old content that they've redone. Just anything, whether it be just a dungeon with some cool boss you liked or any kind of lore. Just, drop a comment below if you have something you want to say. So thanks for watching, guys.